There we go. How are you today?
Doing okay. A pretty chill day.
Nice. Can I help you, Philip?
Philip! As a matter of fact, you can help me.
He looks so funny. He looks so funny. I'm gonna send you a picture of what he's doing.
Okay. Oh, so cute. Philip. Him small head.
He's now decided to sit in my lap. So I guess I'm playing with Philip in my lap today. Hi, baby. I say that, but he's gonna like run off when his feeder goes off in like an hour.
Isn't that always the case?
Hi, Philip. Hi, Mads.
Mads. Sean.
Hello. also waiting for dinner to be done. Is
Yum, yum, yum.
lasagna today.
Lasagna.
Yep. Thursday's
I
returning.
just read the stream title.
The truth come out. Does Mikotoba his father? The truth come out. Does Bruno Mars his game? Is still my favorite. It's probably still one of my favorite memes.
Oh my god.
Just can't get enough, honestly. Is it in the oven at least? I think it is in the oven. So theoretically, it should be done in like half an hour or so.
I can hear the hunger from here.
I had a late lunch, so I'm tided over until it's done. But it sounds like everybody else is pretty hungry. Yeah, I was thinking of getting a haircut tomorrow.
Oh.
Nothing is worse than getting collectible to 1,000 and obtaining nothing. Did you get it to 1,000? You just like forgot that you had to actually collect it? Oh, you used collecting, you got nothing. Oh yeah, I never take chances on that. I always use the thing that ups my chance of collecting. That's an F. Philip, such a lonely boy. So starved for attention.
Oh.
He's upset because we are swapping the cat's habitats for like an amount of time in the hopes that Cookie will get more used to the rest of the house, and that maybe once she's used to the rest of the house, she'll stop feeling so insecure and attacking Philip.
One can hope.
Or if failing that, just like making it so that she knows that there is a rest of the house to go to.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But that means we have to shut Philip in here, and he's upsetty about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
He's like, my house. How could you do this? You would deprive Phillips.
Yeah, our cats will scream at the door if we were to ever shut any of them, no matter what side of it they're on.
Yeah.
They want access everywhere at all times.
I want it now.
Right. I may not need it now, but I want it now.
Yeah, we're gonna have to Cookie some time. We may honestly have to give them like a solid like day. She just doesn't learn her fucking lesson. You know, because normally you'd be like, oh, I've learned how great the outside is. No, it's like, how dare you? I'm going back to the comfort of my own home. I'm never leaving again. Just you fucking watch me. Oh, Cookies. Oh, Cookies. doing the best we can for you, Cookies.
Everything is suffering. What can you do?
It's true. Okay, well, would you like to play some Ace Attorney?
Wow. Yeah.
Let's do it. Oh, we're starting part 1 of the final trial. Oh, baby,
Oh my God.
final chapter.
I'm not ready.
The resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. "3rd November, 9:14 a.m. The Old Bailey, defendant's antechamber." So, the time's finally come. Today, we unravel everything. I'll be counting on your support more than ever today, Miss Susato. Miss Susato?
Ah! Oh,
Oh, fuck, my bones! Oh!
oh no! What's the matter, Mr. Naruhodo?
How did you get flipped upside down? Ah, you tell
How did
me!
this happen?
Nothing. I was just saying I'll be relying on your support today, but,
I'm so sorry. Of course. I know I can be rather incompetent at times, but I shan't let you down.
work.
Clover, what are you barking at?
Oh, there goes Renu.
Okay. I've collected my dog.
Would you mind helping me to my feet then?
Oh dear. I'm really very sorry.
Dog.
Just an instinctive takedown, that's all.
Susato-san isn't her usual self at all. But that's hardly surprising, I suppose. She's just found out that her father is the partner of a world-famous detective. Not to mention...
Maybe she has a little sister. Good morning, sir.
Huh. Lord Van Zeeks. Thank you for all your efforts yesterday. What? Did I hear that correctly? What? Oh, no, nothing. I hope we can clear things up today. I really can't make this man out. His face says I hate you, but his words are almost jovial today. In fact, he hasn't been very Reaper-like at all since this all began yesterday.
Lord Van Zeeks isn't the Reaper, Mr. Naruhodo.
Good point. How did you read my mind?
You're very open like that.
The Reaper. I suppose in hindsight, I shouldn't have allowed that misconception to go unchallenged. Huh? It was my tacit acceptance of that pseudonym. My failure to stop the Reaper becoming something more than a mere legend that led to all this.
But you're not to blame for that, Lord Van Zeeks.
It's only because serious crime in the capital dropped off so sharply when the public started calling you that. That's why you didn't say anything, isn't it? To be frank, I'm not sure that was the sole reason. What do you mean? There was a rumor at the time that the Reaper was really the ghost of my late brother.
Oh.
That having been slain by that evil killer, Clint's restless spirit returned as some sort of demigod. To wield a deadly blade of justice where I, by dint of the law, could not. Yes, we've heard that story too. When I lost him, I felt as though I'd lost my guiding light. I didn't know where to go or what to do. even so, in some small way, I wonder if perhaps those rumors made me feel his absence a little less keenly.
You miss him, Border.
I miss him broader.
Hmm.
Even if I knew it was just an illusion, just some nonsense conjured up by an over-imaginative public.
He was obviously extremely important to you. Lord Clint Van Zeeks.
Well, what's important now is uncovering the truth. That's all that matters. I know that you didn't take anyone's life. And I intend to prove that beyond a shadow of a doubt in court today. I never thought I'd say this, but I can see it in your eyes. That burning desire to cut through all the lies and deception. I can't deny it any longer. You are a lawyer of absolute integrity.
Whoa!
Thank you. Now tell me, why do I detect the scent of expensive tea leaves in the air? Oh, Iris, when did you get here?
Oh. I brought you one of my special blends. Hurley loves it. He says it helps him to clear his head.
Thank you.
Oh.
That's surely the first and last time I'll ever see a sight like this. You seem different today, Iris.
Oh?
Sort of, subdued, I suppose?
I am not.
What happened yesterday is obviously still playing on her mind a lot. She's clearly very troubled about having stolen that autopsy report from Dr. Scythe's laboratory.
All right then. Good luck to you both. I have to make a move now. Oh, you're not staying?
I thought you'd want to watch today's proceedings.
Well, I'd like to cheer you on, obviously. But I've got lots to get ready.
Get ready? For what?
Oh, yes. Would you take this?
Oh my god, it's so cute.
Aww.
Isn't that one of the little felt dolls that's usually dangling from your knapsack?
Yes, it's a lucky charm. A little Hurley that I made once. Oh, it's a little Hurlock.
His persona is a rabbit. A Hurley? Looks more like a Hairley to me.
Wow, ma'am.
If for some reason you completely run out of options in the trial today, then just pull this little Hurley's ears as hard as you possibly can.
I love it. I love a bizarre Chekhov's gun. They always give you one of these in the last case.
They always do.
Pull his ears?
That's right. It's a way to bring good luck. I think you might need it.
Iris's lucky charm has been entered into the court record.
Why is it our court record?
You think what we'll need is luck?
Also, I like that the way that you activate the luck is that you pull its ears. Just like give him a little squeeze.
What a charming little rabbity version of Mr. Sholmes. Do you suppose this is how Iris sees him? Are you all right, Mr. Naruhodo? Your eyes are veritably boring into the poor doll's ears.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering. What do you suppose would happen if I were to tug its ears with all my might right now?
I'm sure that we'll find out when the time is right. To become a proper gentleman, you really must learn stoic patience.
But I want to know.
I want to know now.
I want it now. Well, all right then.
I just sneaked a peek inside the courtroom. And it seemed very different to normal.
Yes, it would seem that a certain someone has decided to pull out all the stops. Well, what does that mean?
What about Mr. Sholmes, Iris? I don't know. He was out all night and he hadn't come home by the time I left this morning. Oh, I see.
Was Professor Mikotoba out all night too, do you think, Mrs. Sato? He was out on the town, partying it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it would seem so. I telegrammed the hotel this morning. And apparently they didn't come back to their rooms last night at all.
Oh my god, they were out partying.
All night long.
They?
Father and Judge Jikoku, I mean.
All three of them.
Judge Jikoku too?
That's right. Nobody appears to have seen either of them since yesterday.
Damn, they went on one hell of a bender. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Please make your way inside the courtroom at once.
Good luck then, Renu. Good luck, Susie.
Yes, thanks, Iris.
And you, Mr. Reaper. I hope it goes well.
Once again, I thank you for the delicious tea. It was very soothing.
Oh, I'm so glad. We must go inside now, Lord Van Zeeks.
Lord Van Zeeks has always been the formidable prosecutor I've had to lock horns with in court. But not today. Today I battle with another in pursuit of the truth. My best friend, Kazuma Asaki, who I trust more than anyone else in the world. Now I understand what it is that... My friend! Now I understood... Now I understand what it was that drew me here to Britain all those months ago. Now I know exactly what destiny had in store for me. It's all been leading up to this one day, to this one trial, to this one final reckoning. November, 9:30 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. It feels even more oppressive here than it did yesterday. There are cold stares piercing me like knives from all sides today.
Ah! Mr. Naruhodo, look!
Oh! Lord Strongheart!
Are you allowed to do this?
Kazuma must have known beforehand. The ramifications of this
why he was
trial.
arguing with him.
Wow. The ramifications of this trial now extend far beyond the murder of one Scotland Yard inspector. In fact, events have come to light that threaten to rock the very foundations of our country's legal system.
The escape of a condemned criminal on the night of his execution. The subsequent unlawful shooting of the man. And the revelation that prison staff must have been complicit in the jailbreak.
Britain is currently hosting influential members of the judiciary from countries all around the world. It is imperative that we uncover the truth in these proceedings to avoid international embarrassment. By royal decree, this will continue to be a closed trial. and one over which I, male Strongheart, exercise total and unequivocal authority. He fucking stands up. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Wow, he's judge, jury, and executioner.
He out here.
The 6 jurors' flames just... As was the case in yesterday's proceedings, those here present in the public gallery are distinguished members of our judiciary, assembled to bear witness to a fair judicial process. In other words, a collection of your acolytes, Lord Strongheart. On a personal note, I find this most distressing, Lord Van Zieks. You are a prosecutor of exceptional talent. Much like your brother Clint, in fact. Woo. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. He fucking stands. Power move. For the trial of Barak Van Zieks, who officially stands accused of murder. Counsels for the prosecution and defense, are you in full readiness to proceed? The defense is ready, my lord.
As is the prosecution.
Yesterday's proceedings brought to light a shocking and disturbing fact. There was a side to the victim, Inspector Tobias Gregson, that was unknown to his superiors at Scotland Yard.
Yes, he was carrying out operations in secret, which Scotland Yard knew nothing about.
And in those clandestine operations, he had an accomplice.
Mr. Daily Vigil, who would be given the inspector's identification and present himself around the capital in order to establish credible alibis for Gregson. In that way, Gregson appeared to be carrying out his regular Scotland Yard work when in fact he wasn't.
At the end of yesterday's session, Mr. Vigil, who had been suffering from amnesia, regained his memory. It would appear he buried his memories of the time deep inside himself as a means of self-preservation. Because whilst he was engaged as chief warder at Barclay Prison, he abetted the convict's escape.
Mr. Vigil is currently recuperating at St. Sinners. He's recovered enough to give a signed statement about his movements on the day prior to the incident.
I was just delivered some lasagna.
Lasagna. Lasagna.
Phillips.
Go, go, go.
Get it, Philip. Get the lasagna. It's your one chance.
He is an orange crab. It's birthright.
Oh no. He's formally admitted to posing as Gregson whilst investigating the Red-Headed League.
Which brings us to the crucial issue of the victim's time of death. The defense yesterday proposed a suggestion that the victim may have been killed one day earlier. This was based largely on the discovery that the victim's pocket watch had not been wound.
The prosecution has something to report on that subject, my lord.
Really? Go ahead, Prosecutor Asagi.
I met once again with the coroner yesterday to discuss the issue. She confirmed that the defense's suggestion could not be ruled out. It's entirely possible that Gregson was killed on 31st October, the day before his body was discovered.
Hey, yo, that's this month, October.
Yup. I have here an updated autopsy report. There it is. That includes the amended details.
But the official opinion of the investigation team was made clear yesterday. That the time of death was 5 p.m. on 1st November.
There are indications of an attempt to disguise the real time of death, however. It seems that the natural decaying process of the victim's body may have been slowed by keeping it chilled.
That's out of the question. There are no refrigeration devices in that part of London large enough to accommodate a human corpse. My lord, this is more than just conjecture. There's evidence to support the idea. We must investigate it thoroughly. Very well. The court will accept the new report as evidence. However, if this updated report is deemed to be accurate, it would give renewed significance to the movements of the victim on the day before the Fresno Street incident. Yes, Phillips.
It would, yes. Especially since on that day, Inspector Gregson was using Mr. Vigil to cover up his real movements. It's conceivable that he was killed in the course of his secret activities.
Do I sense that the prosecution has some information regarding those activities?
Scotland Yard put an enormous effort into investigating that precise matter yesterday. I think we should begin by presenting the results of that investigation work. So the prosecution calls its first witness now. Hey, girl. State your name and occupation for the court.
Inspector Gina Lestrade reporting. Representative of Scotland Yard.
A self-conferred rank, but never mind.
Why is this piece so crunchy? Gina, again?
What's your problem, Odo? What's with that Gina again, Loki?
Ah!
The boss meant the world to me. He done more for me than anyone else ever did.
Gina, I got you off of murder trial charges.
More for me than anyone!
Oh, Inspector Gregson, you mean?
He got me out the back slums of the East End and took me under his wing. Taught me that life can have a purpose. So that's why I'm the best person to be standing here speaking for him. Oh, Gina.
Right, all out of the goodness of Gregson's heart. Not at all that he had his arm twisted by Mr. Sholmes. No.
What's relevant to these proceedings is that the outcome of Scotland Yard's investigations yesterday has revealed that the victim was carrying out some assignment the police knew nothing about.
Very troubling. That face. Lord Strongheart knew.
Oh, Inspector Lestrade. Let's hear exactly what it says in that report.
Coming right up, sir. All yard detectives are supposed to follow orders and investigate what they're told. But a little search of the boss's office turned up a notebook that had a load of secret meetings in it. According to that, the boss was looking into some smuggled goods dealings that day. Looks like it was a big job and all, but the coppers weren't on to it yet. What matters most is there's witnesses what saw the Reaper at the place too.
Smuggled goods?
I don't know, do I? I'm just telling you what was written in the book.
Tobacco, tea, spices, medicines, goods of all sorts flow into London by illegal channels from across the globe.
Him scream. Can you hear Philip screaming?
No?
Thank God for my microphone.
It's well known that they're disposed of at regular black markets that take place in the capital. But the police are rarely able to locate them in time.
Yeah, he's trying to escape.
Oh.
So Inspector Gregson was investigating one of those black markets? It's been suggested that high-ranking government officials may be involved in black market activity. No doubt Gregson was trying to avoid details of his investigation being leaked to the involved parties. That would explain why he was operating on his own authority without the Yard's knowledge. And do we know where the dealings were taking place this time?
In a particular room of a certain exclusive London gentleman's club. And on the day in question, the accused is known to have been there. That's the conclusion of Scotland Yard's investigation into the matter.
That can't be. We haven't heard anything about any of this.
Members of the club have testified to it. There's no question. The accused, Berg van Zieks, was present.
That would be very significant testimony then.
Oh my! But... Lord Van Zieks has made no mention of this at all.
In short, Lord Van Zieks had ample opportunity to murder the victim.
Yes, Phillips. Very well then. Counsel for the defense, begin your cross-examination. So, you follow orders, do you, Gina?
Nah, not me. I'm above all that, see?
Oh.
The boss always had special orders for me. Grab us some fish and chips, or go and give Toby his grub. That kind of thing.
So, errands more than orders, then?
This detective is still an apprentice, after all.
Yeah, well, this apprentice ain't one to sit around and wait to be told what to do, even by the boss. That's why I've been doing my own investigations into what happened. I didn't find much at first.
So you went through Inspector Gregson's things?
Yep, as part of the independent Lestrade investigation.
I'm sure your superiors would be delighted that you're taking the initiative.
So I snuck into his office when no one else was about. Cause if anyone at the yard had seen me going in there, they'd have turfed me straight out onto the street.
All right, I'm gonna be right back. Sean, can you come let me out?
What's happening? What? Hello, Magpie. Yes, I. There's cats being held prisoner. Baby Soupy as well. Welcome in.
Off soon.
How's it going? Going all right. How are you? I'm still riding that high from being so happy not during last night's stream. We did it. I'll be happy about that for a long time. Long time coming and just in time for Spooktober. I am really excited for to be jumping back into horror games again. I'm glad it's also a 1 month. I mean, a one month out of the year kind of thing, because I wouldn't be able to handle it otherwise. I didn't get up too much today, mostly sleeping. I mean, it's the weekend. You should be relaxing. I didn't do much today either. I got some art done. I took Clover to the dog park. She had a very nice romp out there. Very pleasant. there was a toddler there with his parents who was chasing Clover because he thought that she was like a dog that he knew, and the parents had to be like, no, that's not Sasha. I'm assuming that's the dog that he knows. They had to keep calling him back.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
We've been having an experience.
What's happening?
So you know how you know how I told you,
Uh-huh.
you know how I told you we swapped the cats?
Yes.
Well, they're both quite vigilant and quite intent on getting back to their original places.
Yes.
So if we don't lock the door or use the child lock, Philip will open the door really easily, right?
Yeah.
It's a lever door. So he just opened the door while we were away, and then Cookie heard that and just fucking ran in the room and then like sat down and started hissing.
Oh my
like,
god.
So we had to like carefully make sure that we got her out while keeping Philip in here. And he's still in here, so Philip
What a
looked at him at the
nightmare.
same time. Yes, correct. These cats, I swear to God, they are such a hassle sometimes. Anyway.
I want to return back to my space.
Anyway.
The one space for me. Yes, everyone sounds upset.
Yep, everyone is upset. It's true.
Their lives are hard, Soupy. We don't know. We're just humans. What do we know?
Anyway. This is sounding less and less like an investigation and more like something else.
The prosecution understands that it was this very detective who discovered the notebook.
You got that right? Nothing gets past Inspector Lestrade and a trusty assistant, Chief Inspector Toby. We found it hidden in one of his desk drawers that had a false bottom.
That's impressive.
So then I went to hide myself where no one could find me, so I could have a butcher's out what was written in it. Cause if anyone at the yard had found me out, they'd have left me straight out on the street. I've given it in now though, ain't I? And if it weren't for me, it would have never been found.
Do you have any idea where those dealings were taking place?
Yup, it was all there in the boss's notes. Let's see if I can remember.
As I already said, the illegal dealings were due to take place at a gentleman's club.
Yes, I remember. But I was hoping to find out the name of the club.
That won't be necessary.
Oh, what?
It's conceivable that the club might be used again by the smugglers in the future. Therefore, the prosecution has been asked not to reveal the name in these proceedings.
I don't know what all the fuss is about. It's right here. All I've got to do is read it out.
Gina's ready.
And I could too. I've got this reading game buttoned up now.
She's unstoppable.
Can't I show you what I can do? Go on, what's the
The judge hasn't signaled his objection. I could try to find out. What should I do?
What should I do?
This is a closed court. The proceedings are confidential. There shouldn't be any possibility of the information being leaked. As I explained, there is some possibility of politicians being involved in this affair. The prosecution is rightfully exercising caution, I imagine.
No, my lord. The prosecution has no objection.
Kazuma.
There's no question that Inspector Gregson was looking into these black market dealings. However, it's not yet been established that he was on that particular trail on the day in question. If the defense requires to know the club's name, the prosecution has no intention of being obstructive.
Right then. I get to show off my reading skills. Apparently, the smuggled goods deal was gonna happen at a gentleman's club called the Grouse.
The Grouse? What sort of a club is that?
I ain't got the foggiest. Clubs ain't exactly my thing. But I am kinda curious.
They're not places where a foreign student like you would be readily admitted.
Have you looked in the mirror recently?
I tell you what. Me and Chief Inspector Toby could go in undercover.
Could you, though?
I could pick out a few good marks and see what else I could find out while I was there.
I really don't think you should go picking out anything. Anyway, that's where these black market dealings were going to take place, is it?
Yeah, it's gotta be. That's what the low-ranking detectives at the yard reckon.
Says the even lower-ranking detective. So, how had Inspector Gregson come to find out about it in that case?
That's the question, ain't it? But I'm just an apprentice, so...
And why didn't he inform Scotland Yard of his findings?
Yeah, that's what I was asking myself. 'Cause, you know, I'm just an apprentice.
When it suits you, yes?
Anyway, the point is, something went down in that club, no question.
You can't say that for certain, though, surely. Lord Van Zeeks was at the club? He was at the club.
At the club! He was.
They say he had the boots with the fur. The fur?!
Detectives who visited the club yesterday to make inquiries have confirmed it. Several members report having seen the accused being admitted to the room in question as a guest.
It looks like there's no disputing that he was there then.
Well, we know that Lord Van Zeeks was investigating Inspector Gregson, don't we? Perhaps he'd already discovered the inspector's secret notebook.
Which led him to the club, you mean? Maybe. Presumably, then, there are also eyewitnesses who can testify that Gregson was there.
None have been identified at this time, no.
So, the all-important victim wasn't seen at this mysterious club.
Oi, why ain't you asking Inspector Lestrade, eh?
So that's all I've got to work with. Gina's not holding back with that ice-cold stare of hers, is she?
I really don't know what to make of this.
Lord Van Zeeks told us he was investigating Inspector Gregson, but he never once mentioned that he met the inspector the day before the incident.
You don't think Lord Van Zieks could have been lying to us, do you?
That's not the only way to explain this.
Oh,
If everything Lord Van Zieks has told us is true, then there must be a mistake in his testimony somewhere.
you mean there are details we have yet to uncover?
Exactly. A clue, perhaps, that even Gina hasn't noticed. That's what we should be looking for here.
There are details of a whole raft of cases dating back years on here, aren't there?
This paper from 10 years ago is browning with age, look.
Out of interest, the most recent thing appears to be this newspaper cutting here.
Oh, it's the same Red-Headed League advertisement that Mr. Sholmes had picked out.
And do you remember? There was a red hairpiece at the scene too.
Was Inspector Gregson an exponent of the Red-Headed League, then? Have you seen this huge gash across the side of the trunk here? It's gone right through the leather and in the metal behind.
Gosh, for a metal chest like this to have been so badly damaged. Whatever made the gash must have struck the side of the trunk with considerable force.
Wonder how it happened. Let's have a look inside.
Oh!
Oh, look at this spicy stuff. Oh, look, there's something inside.
Oh, let's see. It appears to be a passport, authorizing him to travel overseas.
Was Inspector Gregson about to go on a trip abroad then?
Perhaps the date of departure might tell us something. That was... Oh,
What is it?
it was for travel on 31st October, just one day before the incident.
What? Really?
Travel to France.
Gregson went to France the day before his body was discovered?
The mystery thickens. Oh, a spot of blood.
Look at this dark stain here. Do you think...
Yes, I'm afraid so. I think it's blood.
I knew you were gonna say that. That presumably means...
That this was present at the scene when Inspector Gregson was killed. It's the most logical conclusion, yes.
To think Gina's been carrying this around with her. If you didn't know any better, I suppose it does look like a grease stain from all the fish and chips. Let's see, what else? Well, I suppose we should see what this inspector's identification looks like inside. Shoop.
Whoop.
The Scotland Yard insignia looks genuine to me.
And the department and identification number details are all correct as well. There's no doubt that this really is Inspector Gregson's identification.
This is a Winston birthplace too. All good's gonna happen, except my job.
He sounds so sad. Philip, you sound so sad. Come here, baby. He's like, no.
You cannot be consoled right now. That's right.
Inconsolable.
Don't touch him. He's suffering.
Do this to me.
That's right. How could you do that to your beloved Philip? Don't you love him?
Don't you love me?
So there's some kind of mistake in the testimony, but the coppers weren't onto it yet.
What do you think, Renu?
I'm not sure.
Me neither.
So they had a notebook that had smuggling dealings in this place called the Grouse, and they saw the Reaper at the Grouse, and that's an issue, I guess. It's for the day before he was... And they said that the rest of the police weren't aware of it yet.
Yeah, the coppers weren't onto it yet.
It was a big job, but the coppers weren't onto it yet. Maybe the way is showing that maybe Gregson wasn't there. Yeah. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting too. Is that they're trying to implicate Van Zieks in Gregson's murder by basically placing them at the same place. But I wonder if there's a way we can basically be like maybe it's a little early for the passport.
Yeah.
I don't know. Either that or like that Vigil was the one there instead of Gregson.
When in doubt, just start presenting shit.
No.
It's time for a throw spaghetti at the wall.
What are you doing?
I'm stumped.
That's not possible. All right.
I'm stumped.
Can you press everything again? We'll try it again.
Okay.
Try to run through it again.
So you follow orders, special orders, fish and chips, etc., etc. That was pretty much nothing.
Okay, so she doesn't generally follow the other coppers and stuff like that. Independent investigation. She discovered the notebook, threw a false bottom in the drawer.
Gentlemen's club called the house. And they just talk about clubs. It's like you would be able to go. So how did Inspector Gregson come to find out about it? Why did he inform Scotland Yard?
So we don't know how Gregson found out about it and why he didn't tell the rest of the yard. Okay. So witnesses who can say Gregson was there? No. Okay. So we can't confirm that Gregson was there. We're looking for what, a clue that Gina something has that she hasn't said yet?
No. I do think it is like it is basically like proving that Gregson wasn't there.
Yeah. Is there a way to? Gregson wasn't there. Not sure what the game wants from us right now.
Me neither.
They're alluding. The hint is that there's a mistake in the testimony that will cause Gina to give us another clue. I think is what they said at the end. I wonder if it has to do with like the trunk. The search of the boss's office. You present like the trunk. It was a different objection. He didn't slam his hands on the table. Could you look at the Redheaded League advertisement again? Because we know that he was investigating that during this time. On account of the latest, is now a vacancy open which entitles a member of the league to salary all members somebody by in person the morning of the 31st at the large park on Lime Street. Get £4 a week if you are a redhead. Well, if you present the wig.
Present the wig.
Because they would have had to seen a red-headed man there because he was wearing the wig. I'm having the same thought that you could link the two cases. I mean, yes, that's what I think we're supposed to eventually do. I don't know if it's now or later. Because For sure, he was entangled in the Red-Headed League case because he was found with a wig on in the photograph.
Okay, well, let's see.
Oh, okay, Lime Street was the...
What is this?
Oh no, this is...
Oh, it looks like this is some sort of steamship ticket. The SS Grouse.
Ah!
First class
Pain.
cabin 001.
I'm in pain.
Yokohama departure 11th September. London arrival 1st November.
Oh, that's the boat that Professor Mikotoba and Judge Jigoku came on from Japan, isn't it?
Yes, I think it called at Dunkirk on the north coast of France for a night before finally arriving in Dover.
Ah, we're finally piecing it together. To think it's almost been a year since we arrived in Dover on the SS Buria. It seems a shame not to keep your ticket as a memento of your trip, don't you think?
Yes, I agree. I have mine safely in my diary.
I keep mine in my wallet, so I have it with me at all times. Oh, how strange. Where could it have gone?
Are you like this on purpose, Mr. Naruhodo?
Did I imagine it? Or was that comment accompanied by a little sigh? Oh, Mr. Naruhodo.
Iggy Ari!
I've read about these clubs that exist here in Britain. As I understand it, they're places where well-to-do gentlemen socialize with friends and colleagues.
Don't imagine for a second that a foreign student like you would be admitted. Kazuma, chill!
Seriously, is your mirror cracked or something? Do we know for sure that the contraband dealings were definitely happening at a club called the Grouse?
The police are currently looking for evidence, but haven't found anything definitive yet.
And I'm sorry to say that they probably won't.
What do you mean by that?
I mean that the place Inspector Gregson was secretly going to visit on 31st October may not have been a gentleman's club at all. You're showing a very irreverent attitude towards our country's police force there, Counsel. If it wasn't a gentleman's club, then what was it? A steamship.
Dun dun.
You think it's a ship?
I have the evidence to prove it. Here. Let me see that. This dark-suited young man is not in the least bit untrustworthy. The other side, my lord. Be more specific next time. This would appear to be a ticket for passage upon a steamship, yes. The SS Grouse.
So, there's a steamship named the Grouse that happens to share a name with the club. But I'm afraid to say, there's a flaw in your logic there.
There's a flaw in... How?
Look at the ticket. Notice the date of arrival in port.
The ship arrived at the port of Dover on 1st November. Ah.
The day on which the sound like a gunshot was heard on Fresno Street. In other words, on the day in question, here, 31st October, when the victim was on his clandestine mission, the ship hadn't yet docked on British shores.
That would certainly make an undercover investigation somewhat challenging. The fact that the steamship hadn't yet reached Britain substantiates the defense's assertion that the victim was investigating the SS Grouse on the day in question.
Then show your evidence for that assertion.
Very well. In that case, counsel for the defense, present your evidence to the court now. Evidence that substantiates your claim that the victim was investigating the SS Grouse on 31st October. Ha 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 ha!
Wow! Jablam!
Shablamo! What's this? A passport for travel issued to the victim. Dated 31st October. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that just one day before the inspector's body was discovered, there's a distinct possibility that he wasn't even in the country. Order, order. Horse gavel! This document is for passage to France. It does appear to have been officially authorized. The day before the SS Grouse arrived at Dover, it docked on the northern coast of France for a night.
According to my father, who was on board, at the port of Dunkirk.
Dunkirk, France. What could possibly have taken the victim there?
I'm impressed, Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I certainly didn't expect you to get your hands on that passport.
What? You mean you knew about this?
The prosecution's strategy for this trial has been laid down by the Crown Prosecution Office. On the day before the incident, the victim was investigating contraband dealings at a London club. That's the outcome of Scotland Yard's investigations and the line the prosecution has been asked to follow. But personally, I don't agree. I think the prosecutor's office is trying to hide something.
What? The prosecutor's office trying to hide something?
Not them!
Nah, so trustworthy.
And now that you've expertly disproven their assertion, I intend to reveal what I believe that something to be.
What are you playing at, Prosecutor Asogi?
A courtroom is a forum for the truth, my lord. Which is why it's my duty to present all the facts, without exception.
Let me guess, this was your intention from the outset, wasn't it?
The reason Inspector Gregson secretly made his way to the steamship docked on France in the day in question was to carry out a mission for the Reaper.
Oh my. The Reaper? Order, order. What on earth are you saying, Counsel?
The prosecution made an assertion in court yesterday. Inspector Gregson was investigating the identity of the Reaper. When he discovered the location of the man's secret hideout, he was killed. As I'm sure everyone can imagine, by the Reaper's hand. But in reality, the truth is the opposite of that.
What?
Inspector Gregson wasn't investigating the Reaper at all. He was, in fact, acting for the Reaper.
So, you're saying the mission he was undertaking was...
Obviously, an assassination. No!
Whoa! Whoa!
Not Gregson! Beric Van Zieks never carried out any of the actual killings. Whenever the Reaper's victims lost their lives, he always had a cast iron alibi. Which tells us that he must have had an accomplice.
And you claim that was Inspector Gregson?
What the hell do you think you're saying, eh?
God, they let her swear.
My boss would never have done nothing like that.
And yet, when you consider all the facts, it all makes perfect sense.
No! It can't be! We also arrived at the same conclusion, didn't we? That Inspector Gregson was operating as the Reaper.
Even so, there's no way that the person giving him his orders was Lord Van Zieks. No, the true Reaper's somebody else. Barrack Van Zieks is not the Reaper.
A predictable response from someone who's advocating for the man.
Even if it's true that Gregson was operating as an agent of the Reaper, the suggestion that he went aboard the SS Grouse on an assassination mission doesn't follow at all. Oh, do you have some solid reason for doubting the assertion, do you, Counsel? Absolutely. It's very simple. On the day in question, nobody was killed aboard that steamship. Professor Mikotoba and Judge Jigoku were on that very ship. If someone had been assassinated, I'm certain we would have heard about it.
Poofed!
What's so funny?
You're right, of course. No suspicious deaths were reported on board the ship. But I think perhaps you've missed the point. That's precisely why Inspector Gregson himself lost his life.
What?
Gregson did board the SS Grouse that night with the intention of dispatching his mark. But his mission ended in failure.
Failure?
It seems that the defense hasn't yet grasped a very important detail here.
What are you talking about? What detail?
Inspector Gina Lestrade. Eh? What? The victim's notebook that you read an excerpt from earlier. That doesn't contain details of secret investigations at all. It describes 10 years of assassination plots to be carried out by the Reaper of the Bailey.
You're lying! Even if all them bludgers what got taken out had it coming. The boss weren't the Reaper. Poor Gina.
There's no question that Tobias Gregson was heavily involved in the Reaper's activities. You may just be an apprentice, but if you've spent any time at Scotland Yard, you must have heard rumors.
I ain't heard nothing, and I don't believe a word of it.
You can't prove anything.
Yeah. Then testify again as a representative of Scotland Yard. Consider it your chance to defend your boss.
I don't.
It's freaking gavel.
Yeah. I concur. The witness will give a new formal testimony. Miss Lestrade, you will tell the court everything you know about Inspector Gregson's secret notebook.
Yeah, this notebook does have a load of stuff about what the Reaper got up to these past 10 years.
Weird metallic sound effect. I don't like it. Yeah, it's very unlikable.
Names of victims, dates and places and stuff. And the last entry in there was 31st October. It said grouse for the place on that date. and then the name of the mark. There was a note about him being a criminal what got away from the Reaper in court 10 years ago or something. But honest, the boss didn't do none of it. He was just investigating the Reaper. That's all.
Keep personal opinions out of your testimony, witness. We require only established facts here. This must be so hard for her.
You can't deny it now, surely, Ryunosuke Naruhodo.
What can't I deny?
Watch me.
The notebook contains the name of the final mark and the location where the assassination would take place. That's information that the victim could only have known if he was working with the Reaper.
So, so, who was to be this final mark?
Go ahead, Inspector Lestrade. Read the name for the court. Ooh. The name that's written alongside the entry that mentions the grouse on 31st October.
This is gonna be some crazy bombshell.
Yes.
Oh, how do you read this then?
Reading's still not her strong suit.
That ain't the problem, alright, Odo. It's a funny name. It ain't English. It's hard to read.
So it's someone from overseas?
Oh, jeez.
Let me have a bash at it. Seishiro. Is it?
Oh my god.
Yeah. Seishiro. Jig-og-you? Maybe?
Oh my god.
It can't be. Seishiro Jigoku?
But that's Judge Jigoku.
Seishiro Jigoku. Certainly not an English name, you're right. But that can't be right. I know Judge Jigoku. I saw him the day before yesterday, here in London.
He was throwing all the death flags.
So, I know for a fact that the man hasn't been assassinated.
As I said, the Reaper failed.
Oh.
Gregson missed his chance to kill his mark and returned to British shores.
Or he died.
But the Reaper wouldn't tolerate the mistake. So he killed the inspector, personally. The Reaper, of course, being the accused, Berk van Zieks.
It's an undeniably logical argument. Kazuma, you planned for the trial to go this way all along, didn't you?
Hey!
Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice, whilst I stand accused of murder. Lord Van Zieks, oh my god, who let you have that?
The accused has no right to speak uninvited in court and throw his boot around. You will return to the dock.
I say nothing of whether or not I'm the Reaper. That's the task of this court to decide. But there is one thing I can say unequivocally.
Oh.
That girl is no detective.
What? No, that's right. I ain't. I'm an inspector.
Repeating rumors heard around the yard. Reading entries from a notebook of unconfirmed origin. That's not testimony. It's practically a script. No doubt the rest of this trial will go exactly as you've clearly planned. All his mannerisms make more sense if he's just drunk out of his mind all the time. Yeah, I mean, probably. He's not had a sober day since his brother died. Your hatred of me is understandable. In your mind, I'm sure I am the Reaper, who sent your father to the gallows all those years ago. But you're in danger of becoming a far more sinister Reaper yourself. By attempting to have me condemned with this feeble excuse for testimony.
Ooh! What did you say? Mr. Naruto, this is our chance.
My lord, the defense requests that the defendant be allowed to speak. He may be privy to important information relating to the testimony just given by the witness. Very well, I'll make an exception and grant the request. The defendant may remain in the witness stand for the cross-examination. Then allow me to toast the blah, blah, blah. Whoa, allow me to get real toasty here.
Stop!
Oh, who am I? What is my name? How long have I been here? Who are you?
Oh my god. Keep it together, Benzeeks.
Then allow me to toast the court's impartiality. Don't raise your glass in my direction, sir. Counsel for the defense, begin the cross-examination immediately. Oh boy,
Oh.
okay. At once, my lord.
He didn't have any wine in the jail cell, so he's making up for it now.
He definitely keeps some some good stuff just stashed underneath the bench, you know? How else do you think he gets it? In other words, it shows that Gregson was basically acting as the Reaper.
Not you and all. That ain't the only explanation, is it? He could have been investigating the Reaper in secret, and that notebook said what he found out.
If I may. When originally people began referring to me as the Reaper, I didn't object. I believe the power to intimidate London's criminal classes into compliance with the law to be beneficial. But you carried out your own investigations into the true identity of the Reaper, didn't you? Yes, and those investigations proved conclusively that Gregson was one arm of the Reaper.
One arm? What are you on about?
The Reaper's victims were all extremely shrewd criminals at the top of their game. Oh boy, here comes Tyler
Ooh.
with the Prime Gaming
The
subscription.
Prime Club.
There's simply no way one person could have taken them on alone. The Reaper is an organization.
With you at its head.
I had spies at the yard keeping me abreast of Gregson's movements, letting me know when he was elsewhere. So I'd been able to check the most recent entry in his book. I knew the location. You knew it said grouse? Believing it to be a reference to the Gentleman's Club, I went there on the day in question to investigate. Alone.
Ah, so that explains why several members of the club claimed to have seen you there.
But of course, the inspector was not there.
Because at the time he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France. As shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. Very well then, back to your testimony about the contents of this notebook.
Fine. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? You seemed a little shocked by something a moment ago.
Oh, no, it's all right. I'm overthinking this, aren't I? Names of victims, dates, places, and stuff. What in particular?
Well, beside the victims' names, this other name kept cropping up.
What other name was that?
It's the one I told you yesterday. The same name written over and over again.
You mean Asa Shin?
Yeah, that's the one. She's a friend of yours or something, isn't she?
Were you even listening yesterday? Asa Shin, the assassin.
Yes.
What? Like, a killer, you mean?
I feel like that line must have been... I was gonna say more elegant in Japanese, but that's probably not true because I bet that name in Japanese was also a pun on assassin, like ansatsu or like koroshi, right? Something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it could be, or I mean, it could be that they were referencing like the English word and turned it to a name like they could have kept the name the same, right, and just had it like be the English word.
Maybe.
Or-
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. It's a lot harder to tell in this game because in all the other games, every name is localized. But because this game has English characters, it is possible that her name was Asa Shin, or that was her like scene name or whatever, right? Because it wouldn't register immediately in Japanese.
Right. Yeah.
Gregson was the tactician, the one who came up with the plan of attack. He was a criminal mastermind, well versed in the assassinating arts.
No! Stop it!
A ruthless killer.
Oh, I don't believe it.
He investigated the marks thoroughly, finding out when they would be vulnerable and who to use to get at them. But the person actually executing his plans was someone else, you're saying? If that's true, then the Reaper does indeed start to sound like an organized group of vigilantes. Then perhaps what it said on the passport document. Permission for the applicant and one additional person to travel. Could that additional person have been...
Clearly the assassin, who was meant to take Seishiro Jikoku's life.
Tactical criminal mastermind. Gina, can you confirm that? Against the final entry that listed Grouse and Seishiro Jikoku, what name was written?
Oh, well, that's the only entry that didn't have a name next to it, as it happens.
What?
It just had like a question mark or something there, I think.
In other words, Gregson himself didn't know the identity of the assassin in that case. But Gregson was the one making the plans, was he not?
Oh, how infuriating.
A nameless assassin? And you're saying that the mark listed was Seishiro Jigoku?
That's what it said. Funny name, if you ask me.
Shut up, English.
And I thought your name was odd.
So pleased to have lost my crown there.
Mr. Jigoku is the presiding judge of Japan's Supreme Court of Judicature.
I remember the man. He came to our country as a visiting student 16 years ago. Studying international law and diplomacy under your tutelage, Lord Strongheart.
Oh.
That bearded young fellow was a very able man, I must say. So Lord Strongheart was Judge Jigoku's mentor. If I'm not mistaken, he returned to Japan 10 years ago now.
"10 years ago, after that fateful case."
Precisely. In the aftermath of the professor case, his repatriation was organized immediately. A nameless assassin. His assassin was the question. Obviously, his assassin was the Riddler. Riddle me this! It's a mystery why such a man would be listed in the inspector's notebook.
I didn't think it was possible, but the mood in here's got even worse now. Maybe I'll just keep talking.
What do you mean a criminal? Judge Jigoku is no criminal.
Well, don't ask me. I don't know nothing about it. Oh, do you remember what Father told us? That Judge Jigoku did once appear in court here in Britain.
I love Gina. Maybe I'll just keep talking. Maybe all you people fucking cheer up or some shit.
So cute.
It was related to the professor case, I'm sure.
Yes, of course, you're right. Seishiro was trying to mitigate Genshin's guilt, so he took to the stand to testify. But he got a little carried away and, actually managed to break the witness stand. He also said some contemptuous words about the British Empire, for which he was charged.
Oops.
Oops. It was a pitiful situation, yes. I'd forgotten all about it. But I prosecuted that trial too, as it happens. You did? It was considered to be an adjunct to the professor proceedings, you see. But he was acquitted after being told to make reparation for the damage caused to the stand.
And there you have it.
Have what?
Surely the accused hasn't forgotten his own rule? That there's no saving anyone who faces the Reaper in court, guilty or innocent alike.
I like the implication here that it's just like, you did some property damage, you deserve the death penalty. Oops, capital punishment. What? No! Are you suggesting that the reason Judge Jigoku was targeted for assassination?
The man was sent back to Japan immediately after that trial. The Reaper had no time to do his work. But then, 10 years later, the mark returns to Britain once more. Perhaps now you start to see just how vindictive the Reaper is.
Oh, come on, that's absurd. To take someone's life for that? It was property damage.
Isn't the whole premise of the Reaper absurd, killing those people who have been found innocent? Clearly, the rules by which the man operates are beyond a sane person's comprehension.
But...
Right, I've had just about enough of this.
Gina.
All this nonsense about the boss planning to kill people. It's cobblers. Come on, Odo.
Yes?
Why ain't you saying nothing?
What do you want me to say?
Why ain't you yelling out objection or something?
What?
You gotta find a flaw. You do usually. Someone's lying here. No question. You gotta work out who it is. Please. For the boss.
That outburst was an insult to the court and to your own testimony. I might have known that a common pickpocket from the back slums couldn't make a detective. When this trial is over, you will forfeit your warrant card, Miss Lestrade. Is that clear?
I've had it with a lot of you. It's lies every bleeding place you look in this world, isn't it? Well, I've had enough. Gina.
So have I. After that little speech of Gina's, I've made up my mind.
To do what, Mr. Naruto?
There was one point in this cross-examination when something that was said just didn't sit right with me. One statement that seemed odd.
Oh, do you mean?
I'm not gonna let Gina's plea for help fall on deaf ears. Was it the first statement or the second one that we pressed that we were like,
I
Is it this one? Okay, so it's in here.
As far as is elsewhere, so I'd been able to check the most recent entries in the book. I knew the location. You said Grass, Gentleman's Club, and the inspector was not there, making his way to the steam ship docked on the northern coast of France. As shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk.
That's where we're like, something sussy.
That's where, yeah, something sussy, yeah.
Okay, well, let's drop this little Saverino. I think so from what I'm guessing is, it has something to do with the trunk. Right? 'Cause
Okay.
That's what it was. Like, how would he know that there was a passport in the trunk if Gina took the trunk? Question mark, right? I guess, maybe. I don't know.
Well, we just brought it up in court.
Yeah.
And wasn't Kazuma the one who brought up the passport?
Yeah. There's one statement that was
Trunk does have a little stuff about what the Reaper got up to these past years. Oh, what's the passport say again? One of them we for police business, and one additional person to travel.
What else? Notice board. Maybe we'll just press this one.
Yeah, okay.
I want to thank you, Gina. You helped me find my resolve.
Eh? What do you mean?
Amongst everything we've heard during this cross-examination, there's one thing that defies explanation. One inconsistency. What? An inconsistency?
Really, Odo?
I don't quite know what it means yet, but yes, there's an inconsistency in something that was said by
Oh, Jesus.
Kazuma. Our boy!
Oh.
By you, Kazuma Asogi.
Me?
Is this some attempt at filibustering, Counsel? Prosecutor Asogi has given no testimony.
What are you suggesting I said that was inconsistent?
You let something slip that you shouldn't have. When I present the relevant piece of evidence, I imagine you'll realize what you've done. Very well then, Counsel. Go ahead. What evidence reveals this alleged inconsistency in something Prosecutor Asogi has said? It has to be trunk, right?
I guess the trunk or the passport, because that's the only two things that he brought up specifically the passport, but
But like,
I guess it could be the trunk too.
yeah. This
There you go. Yeah, you got it.
is a trunk that belonged to Inspector Gregson. You were gone for a while. I think because like I don't think we ever mentioned that we found it in the case, right? We just said here's a passport, I think.
Oh.
Oh, Tyler, you don't know why Kazuma's here.
Oh no.
A metal construction, is it? It's certainly very heavy. What's this? He did not die on the boat, and he got amnesia, and he became a legal assistant, and then he got his memory back, and now he's prosecuting because Van Zeeks is the defendant. A bloodstain. And a relatively fresh one, too.
What? You mean that ain't grease from all the boss's fish and chips?
Fresh blood on the inspector's trunk. That suggests the victim was traveling with that luggage when he was killed. That can't be. There was no mention of any trunk in Scotland Yard's report. Yes, there's a reason for that. Immediately after the inspector's body was discovered, one of the street peddlers made off with the trunk. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, fucking Mr. Sandwich. Hoping to sell it.
Well, I found it. Me, with me nose for trouble.
Was he just in a coma? He like woke up in like Hong Kong, I think. He woke up in Hong Kong and was like, I don't remember shit. I know I have to go to England. So he did. Which means that nobody should have known anything about the trunk. Unless, of course, we're talking about somebody who was present when the victim was killed. Oh! And yet, during the cross-examination of the witness just now, you said this, Kazuma.
Because at the time, he was making his way to the steamship docked on the northern coast of France. As shown by the passport found in the victim's metal trunk. You are so right, dude!
Yeah! So the question is, how did you know about the inspector's trunk?
We know the man went on a trip to France. Where else would he have put his passport?
But you knew it was a metal trunk. Answer me honestly, Kazuma.
Cosmo trying to slip.
On 31st October, where exactly were you?
Ooh. At the port of Dunkirk, on board the SS Grouse. Is that the answer you're looking for, Ryunosuke?
Kazuma, what did you...
Getting juicy.
I hadn't considered the possibility before, but if Kazuma was there on the ship, then it could only have been for one purpose.
Oh no, Mr. Naruto. Surely you don't think.
Come on, Ryunosuke. You know the rules. The only thing that really talks in the courtroom is hard evidence. As I understand it, Inspector Gregson always took that case with him when he traveled. So as it stands, you've proved nothing.
Are you challenging me to prove it beyond all reasonable doubt? That you were there that day, in the same place as the inspector. He was there. With Gregson. Hello, Trist.
Hi, Trist.
What time is it over there? There's a clue that you've overlooked. A secret that trunk can tell us. I can't be sure at this point. I'll need to verify it. But I have a nasty feeling that I'm going to be right. The accusation being made is deeply disturbing. But nonetheless, we must test it. 7 a.m. That's pretty early. The defense will identify for the court where in the trunk this alleged clue is to be found. Where is the evidence that ties Prosecutor Asuki to Inspector Gregson? Let's have a look inside.
Yeah, maybe the slash?
Do you see that? There's something stuck in the side of the trunk there. It's glinting.
It looks like a fragment of metal of some sort. But it's wedged in so tightly I can't remove it.
Well, don't cut yourself. You better leave it, I think. And then there's the passport. Some books. Yeah, it's probably whatever this is.
It's probably that. Maybe it's a piece of his sword or something.
Is Van Zieks getting tried? He sure is. Has Kazuma realized, or do only Ryunosuke and Susato know? Wait, realized what? There's a small piece of metal lodged in the wall of the trunk here, like the tip of a blade.
A blade?
Kazuma, slung around your waist as ever today, is the esteemed blade, Karuma. That he has amnesia and he knows them? No, he knows now.
Of course it is.
Won't you draw it here in this courtroom for all to see? Exercise caution, my learned friend. That man is the son of London's most notorious killer.
Ooh.
Bailiff, watch Prosecutor Asuki like a hawk.
Oh man. That won't be necessary. Why'd y'all let him in here with the sword anyway?
Bro.
Bro.
Bro, did you open it with your sword?
Bro. No, I don't think so. Right?
The tip is broken. If the fragment of metal from the trunk fits together with the end of the sword, the question of who was there with Inspector Gregson will be answered. Agreed, Kazuma Asogi.
Bro, you better not have used your sword to pry it open with a crowbar. That's so disrespectful.
There, you have another sword with you, and one that hasn't been passed down in your family for generations.
Expertly done, Ryunosuke. That's a point to you, and well deserved.
Do you mean to tell the court, Prosecutor Asogi?
Yes, on 31st October, I accompanied Inspector Gregson to Dunkirk in order to carry out a mission.
So the additional person authorized to travel
Was me.
and the mission was?
The assassination of the Mark. What?
What? You mean you're the killer whose name was omitted from this notebook?
What's happening?
You were following the Reaper's orders to dispatch Judge Jigoku?
No way! Neither Gregson nor Kazuma. No way! Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I have killed no one.
Explain.
I accepted the assassination mission, yes, and I accompanied Gregson to Dunkirk. But I never had any intention of carrying out the plan.
You were never going to do it? Why would they keep hiring cops to do it?
Why would they hire Kazuma?
We can believe Kazuma-sama, I'm sure. After all, Judge Jigoku arrived safely in London the following day.
On the 31st, I boarded a train from London with Inspector Gregson. We traveled to Dover, from where we crossed the channel to Dunkirk. Then we boarded the SS Grouse and made for the cabin deck, as indicated in the plan.
You went to Judge Jigoku's cabin?
Exactly. He wasn't there, though. We decided to wait, but...
But you've already told us you had no intention of going through with it anyway.
I didn't come to Great Britain to take anyone's life. So I left Gregson and disembarked the ship. I spent that night at a boarding house in the town and returned to England the following morning.
Boarding house in Dunkirk.
My signature will be in the register book. It would be simple enough to verify.
Then, what became of Jigoku?
Gregson was no assassin, so the mark was spared. I'm sure it's easy enough to imagine what happened after that. Gregson returned to England as well, having failed to complete the mission. Why would you hire Kazuma?
So many questions.
Oh right, I forgot that Kazuma was mysteriously gone right before the trial. He met with the Reaper in that room on Fresno Street to report the failure. Causing the infuriated mastermind to pull the trigger and end his wretched agent's life. But this still doesn't explain the red wig.
Nope.
That's the real truth behind Inspector Gregson's murder.
But if you did nothing as you could, how did the tip of your sword come to be lodged in the inspector's trunk?
I don't need to answer that.
Do you not? I think you might. I think you might need to answer that.
I think it's kind of important. The victim was killed by a gunshot. A small fragment of a Japanese blade isn't relevant to the case.
Why would you try to cut it open with the most implicating item you have?
And accordingly, I choose to exercise my right to silence on that matter.
Do you have a right to silence? Like, can't we subpoena that shit? Be that as it may, the court will sequester the sword as evidence.
My sword, no.
As you wish, my lord.
The great sword Karuma has been entered into the court record.
Great sword that you chipped.
We must take immediate action now. To verify whether Seisho Jigoku remains unharmed.
Bro.
What? Remains unharmed?
I agree. That should be our first priority. It's recently come to my attention that he hasn't been seen since yesterday. Oh my god,
no.
the death flags are finally kicking in.
Oh, they're just popping up all over the place.
Oh my god, dude.
How did you?
When a foreign dignitary invited to Great Britain goes missing for 24 hours. Could have done something for him sooner. It's only natural that the question of his safety should arise.
Hey, Kazuma, buddy, maybe you should have let people know.
So he hasn't been out binging with Holmes or Shomes?
Yeah, they haven't been on the world's greatest
Yeah,
OG
Shomes and Mikotoba. Yeah.
You don't mean to say that you think Judge Jigoku may have been killed?
The Reaper has more than one assassin at his disposal. And he has the power and influence to give orders from the inside of a prison cell. Isn't that right, Lord Van Zeeks? Oh, here we go again.
Bro, I need a fucking drink. If I were truly the Reaper, I'd be able to tell you.
Ooh.
Order. Order in the court. Order. We will take an emergency recess for 30 minutes. Now? Guests of the symposium have been told to maintain regular contact with the organizer's office. If the man can't be located within half an hour, we will have to assume the worst.
Oh no, not Judge Jigoku.
No one would want to kill a harmless Japanese man who'd only just arrived in the country. Except, that is, for the Reaper, wanting to finish off a mark that slipped through the net 10 years ago.
The Reaper. I would have to agree. Mr. Naruhodo, for the defense's sake. My lord? I sincerely hope we are successful. If we're unable to confirm Mr. Jigoku's healthy existence in the next 30 minutes, you will face grave difficulties. Court is adjourned for 30 minutes.
Kazuma-sama, the Reaper's assassin. I feel as though I'm in a nightmare.
It does rather feel like I'm in a fever dream.
Mhm.
I can hardly believe it either, but on the other hand, Kazuma isn't in the habit of making up stories.
I have such a terrible sense of foreboding. If something awful has happened to Judge Jigoku, then I feel as though things will only spiral further and further out of control.
I felt it from the moment I stepped into the courthouse this morning. That strange sensation that we were careening maybe, towards a foregone conclusion. Well, in the worst case, we might only have 30 minutes left. Unfortunately, though, I don't think there's anything we can do but wait now. We're out of options.
Actually, there may be one last hand we can play. Or rather, one last ear.
Of course! The little Mr. Sholmes doll that Iris gave us.
If for some reason you completely run out of options in the trial today, then just pull this little Hurley's ears as hard as you possibly can.
What if they just come off? Perhaps now is the time. What should I do? Pull Hurley's ears or not? Pull! Pull! Pull!
Oh.
Here goes then. I'm gonna do it!
Good luck, Mr. Naruhodo.
No looking back. Heave! Ow!
That scream sounded like Mr. Sholmes.
Oh no!
Mr. Sholmes, where are you?
Here, my dear fellow, here!
It's the felt doll talking?
Oh my goodness.
Pull the ears again, Mr. Naruhodo, as hard as you can.
All right then, I'll put all my strength into it. Heave!
What's happening? Please, my dear fellows, you don't need to pull my ear off.
Mr. Sholmes, where are you?
Myself and my trusty partner are presently in the first-class cabin area of the SS Grouse.
The SS Grouse?
She left Dover last night after the final pieces of cargo were loaded. This is some really advanced technology.
No question.
We are currently docked at Dunkirk, but due to be underway again in half an hour.
You've taken a ship to France?
Please, even with my athletic prowess, I would struggle to jump the Straits of Dover. After we left Baker Street last night, we hurried by cab to the station and by train to the port, in order to board this vessel in time.
So, you mean you already worked it out? That the steamship was where everything really took place?
Mr. Naruhodo, pray, what is my name?
Sherlock Sholmes, world's famous great detective.
Recited to perfection. Well done.
You're a genius, Mr. Sholmes. That's the only word for it.
Miss Susato, gently with this genius's ear, please.
Oh my, I'm ever so sorry.
If I may, Sholmes.
Ah, there you are, Mikotoba.
You may remember that it was in fact I who made the connection to the SS Grouse. At Scotland Yard yesterday when we examined that notebook and I recalled my steamship ticket.
But of course it was, my dear fellow. And not once did I controvert that fact. I merely had our court-bound companions utter my name.
Yes, you did, didn't you? We've just entered a recess. The trial resumes in 30 minutes from now.
And if we're unable to present any new leads, then I'm afraid to say.
Do not fret, please. It's for precisely that purpose that my partner and I have made this journey. I have no doubt we shall have welcome news for you within the half hour.
Thank you, Mr. Sholmes. That would be wonderful.
Until later, then. He looks adorable with a little rabbit hanging off his ear.
Yes, you'll be hearing from us if you're not in touch first.
I shan't be hearing anything if you keep tugging my ear in that mindless fashion.
Whatever was the idea behind making a receiver operated in that way in the first place, Sholmes?
Why the deuce would I know? It's Iris's invention, not mine. I mean, really, it's so advanced. We don't have anything like that today.
No, we do not. It's basically magic. Whilst I know how much you enjoy being the hero of the hour, Sholmes, we have but half that now before the grouse puts to sea again. If we don't conclude our investigations rapidly, we shall find ourselves in Naples before long.
There are times, Mikotoba, when you make a surprising amount of sense. So, let us begin. Yes, she does.
Oh my. First class cabin number 2. Yes, this is the one. But I don't believe an investigation of the cabin is going to be plain sailing.
Hey, buddy.
That crewman standing in front of the door is an angry-looking fellow. Why are you loitering here? Who are you?
Those little blushies. My dear fellow, do you not recognize a world-famous great detective when you see one? The question really ought to be, who are you?
Do you not recognize world-traveling great sailor Chicken Stroganoff when you see?
Chicken Stroganoff?
Great detective! Ah, I don't think so. Why does he have
his
Sholmes
arm.
written on his arm?
Do you see that, Mikotoba? It would appear that this man is a devoted follower of mine.
Goodness me, is that a tattoo that says Sholmes?
I must say, whilst such adoration is flattering, naturally, it does leave me a little cold.
What are you talking about? Leave now!
How distressing. My loyal devotee knows me only by name and not by appearance. And yet, I already know a great deal about you, sir. You have a brother, I believe. Like yourself, he's a shipman. Currently traveling the world aboard a Russian steamship, in fact.
How could you know this?
Elementary, my dear Mikotoba.
I'm sure it was. 3 days ago, I was bound for London aboard this ship, you see. We're looking for one of my fellow passengers, a man by the name of Jigoku. There is no one with his name on board, but we know that he purchased a ticket for passage. Ah, you mean Eastern Man? He left ship 2 hours ago. Here at Dunkirk. He said something about emergency, I think. What? Are you sure? So Seishiro's realized that we're after him, has he?
His cabin is the one behind you. We should like to investigate, please.
No! I have orders not to let even mouse inside!
Mikotoba, be a good man and draw the sailor's attention away, would you? Make up some excuse so that he leaves the area.
Doesn't great detective see? That even sailors have ears, both left and right.
Curses! The plan is ruined! Oh my god!
And you have only yourself to blame, I'm afraid, Sholmes. Is Jigoku running away? Yeah, I mean, something sussy going on. Forget it. Cabin door is locked. Even if I am not here, you cannot get inside.
Mikotoba. I'm sure you haven't forgotten my special talent, have you?
Opening any lock?
Within a mere 5 seconds. So if you'd be so kind as to afford me the requisite time, old friend, in your typically accommodating manner?
Yeah, we just learned in this case that that Judge Jigoku has gone missing and was maybe on the assassination list.
Yeah.
You've missed nothing else. He's just gone. How could I refuse such a typically unappealing request, old friend? So I need to distract that burly sailor for 5 seconds, do I?
Good man. So, the game is afoot.
This must be a mousetrap, I think. Perhaps I could distract the crewman's attention with this somehow. Choo choo.
Choo!
That sounds like Big Mouse in Trap. Choo choo. I will bring bucket of water later and put out of misery.
Choo choo!
I don't like the sound of that.
In any case, my dear fellow, that was quite unconvincing. Only Japanese mice make a chew sound.
Oh, really, Sholmes? And pray tell, what sound do Russian mice make?
PP, naturally. Though also quite unconvincing, I readily admit. How do you know these things? So go ahead, Mikotoba. Do a PP this time.
No, thank you. I'm sure I can come up with an alternative solution. Oh, the switch for the electrical lights. Perhaps if I were to turn off the lights, the crewman wouldn't be able to see what we were doing. Click. Oh, what is happening? Where is light? Now, Sholmes, now!
Ah!
Nobody there. That was a close shave.
Quite a knack you have, stumbling so violently in an apparently empty corridor.
Do be quiet, Sholmes. I shall have to think of another approach. Well, when in doubt, sound the alarm.
Oh my god.
This would appear to be an alarm bell. All hell would break loose if that thing were to ring. The whole crew would know about it. Well, here goes then. Pardon me in advance. Yo, what are you doing? If you're at sea, that would be very bad problem. What's going on down there? Seaman Stroganov, report at once. Oh,
Oh my god.
sorry, sir, nothing to report. It was just stupid trick. No, not by me, by world famous. No, as I told you. No, Sholmes, no.
Done.
Not even 5 seconds, eh?
Well, don't stand there gawping at my brilliance, Mikotoba. In we go.
Oh, yes. Well, here goes nothing. That man lasts object permanence.
Wow!
3rd November, SS Grouse. First class cabin, number 2.
Oh my goodness.
Good gracious.
It would appear that the occupant of this cabin did indeed disembark rather hurriedly.
Those clothes on the floor there, they're Seishiro's, without question. They can lock him out. I guess that's true.
Well, it seems we are just a little too late.
Yes, by about 2 hours.
Still, whilst we're here, we should investigate thoroughly. There may well be 2 hours worth of clues to find in here.
But that burly crewman may return at any moment, Sholmes.
Indeed he may, which makes this all the more thrilling.
He's just having a great time. There's a speaking tube here, look, though it's been stoppered with some cloth. So the voices of the crewmen on the bridge aren't an annoyance, I suppose.
Or indeed, so that the voices in this cabin aren't heard elsewhere.
Could something have happened in here that was for no one else's ears, do you think?
Either that, or... it could be to prevent snakes from entering.
That's absurd. That would never happen.
No, a snake on a cabin on a ship? No way.
That's really become a favorite case of yours, hasn't it? Oh, that's right. He's Mr. Watson. These are the rules of passage. Passengers must not keep weapons or other dangerous objects in their cabins. Pets are also strictly forbidden. Additionally, there are severe punishments for stowing away in wardrobes and or travel cases.
I feel the rules have increased since I last read them. Probably just my imagination.
What about the fact that they're not straight on the wall? Doesn't that strike you?
You may be right. Probably just your imagination, though. A trifle. And you know what I always say, Mikotoba? There's nothing important about trifles.
It's probably just my imagination, but I think that might be slightly off.
Quite the exquisite glass, I must say. See?
Is something wrong, Sholmes? You suddenly trailed off.
Ice, Mikotoba, ice! What opulence the first-class passengers enjoy. Chilled drinks.
Pardon?
Could it be that this steamship is equipped with an electrically refrigerated cold room, do you think? How large is it?
Well, it is a luxury liner after all. I have an enormous refrigerators for storing all sorts of lavish produce as well as ice. On our voyage from Japan, we enjoyed culinary delights from all over the world.
Suddenly, Mikotoba. The sight of you is making my mouth water. Oh my...
I haven't taken on the flavor of the food I ate, you know? Are you having trouble paying rent again? According to the report I was given, Naruhodo was concealing himself in Asogi's wardrobe.
Indeed he was, and it was of a similar size to this one. Ah, you must climb inside yourself, my dear fellow.
What? Whatever for?
It was the site of my first fateful meeting with Mr. Naruhodo. You can experience the moment for yourself now, complete with my dramatic rhetoric.
Hi, Philip.
Philip,
Are you a lap kitty now?
what's
You wanna
happening,
hang out
Philip?
with me? Do you want to hang out with me, baby?
Come along now. In you go. This will only take a moment.
Really, Sholmes, surely you can just tell me what you said.
Well, I uttered some brilliant remark and opened the wardrobe to reveal the stowaway murderer.
I think I'll just read about it in the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. This is the waste paper basket. Look, and there's still rubbish inside.
Indeed? Then let us pry. I've discovered recently I have a penchant for exploring the contents of others' waste paper baskets.
I sincerely hope only for your work.
Ah! Here we have a notice issued to passengers from 3 days ago.
3 days ago, the night before we arrived in London then, when I was still aboard myself. Evacuation drill notice, 31st October. Ah, yes, there was an evacuation drill. I remember now. For our safety and security, all first-class passengers were constantly under the watchful eye of the crew. So it was a welcome relief to have some privacy for once.
That's a substantial heap of clothes on the floor. An overcoat, shirts, a dressing gown.
Momohiki work trousers, a tanzan robe, a haramaki waistband, clearly the clothing of a Japanese man.
And clearly, Japanese men are unaccustomed to the culture of the wardrobe.
It looks to me as if they've been thrown in a heap like that in something of a hurry.
Indeed. You could help yourself to a Japanese man's shirt, perhaps? I'm sure you made mention of packing too few.
I'd very likely drown in one of Seishiro's shirts. No, I'll just buy any extras I need, I think. The wall is a slightly different color just here, do you see?
Indeed. What you have observed arises when a frame that has been hanging for some time is removed. Perhaps your friend is an art thief.
Now there's a bold deduction worthy of a great detective, I'm sure.
He may very well be the elusive thief who has been plaguing France's galleries of late.
I think perhaps we should focus our attentions elsewhere, Sholmes, don't you? That outline on the wall. I feel as though I might have spotted something of a similar shape and size elsewhere. Plenty of reading material to keep passengers occupied on the long sea voyages. I found the mixture of classic literature and easy reading to be most satisfactory, I must say.
Tisk, whoever stocked this bookcase was a hopeless heretic. There's no copy of The Adventure of Sherlock Holmes, my dear fellows.
I'm afraid it's just me, but no, you're quite right. More blasphemous than overlooking the Bible.
I shall leave a copy behind. I just happen to have one with me. My god.
You're a true missionary of the Church of Great Detectives, aren't you? Yeah, he just carries a copy of his book with him.
Yes,
He
why
didn't
not,
even
you
fucking
know?
write the thing.
That's a very sizable trunk indeed.
Seishiro is partial to all things large.
And a rather clumsy fellow if he failed to notice he'd left that behind.
Leaving your own book in any library doesn't have it. Honestly, if I published a book, I feel like I would be that person. Just mysteriously a book appears.
How did this get here?
What would happen if you had a book that was not part of a library and you put it into the return chute Like, what happens to that book? Do they have a lost and found for books? Or do you think they
That's
just,
a
like,
good question.
adopt it into their own category or catalog?
Maybe both. Like, after a while, if it's in Lost and Found and no one claims it, they just put it in the library if it's approved or whatever.
Okay, hold on. I found a Quora question. If I put a new book into the book return at a library, what will happen to it? Will the library keep it? Will it be donated? This response is, hello there. I'm studying science library and will become a librarian in a few months. But even thought I still can't be sure about your question. I'll try to answer this with my little experience. Before a book become library's property, sorry, this is lots of misspellings. I think English is not their first language. Librarians have a lot of work to put on that book, such as library's mark, classification numbers, cataloging. The first things I mentioned above are the most visible ones for readers to determine which book belongs to library. Back to your question, let's see. The book might go to acquisitions department and simply become library's property. For some libraries, they also put such books to trade shelves where readers can exchange books with library books. Oh, yeah. There's another response. From a librarian that says, I would accession the book unless it was inappropriate for my library. In that case, I would send it to another library. To accession a book is to add it to the library's collection. I used to do this at our local branch library, but they have requested that one do this at the desk, not at a book return. That's funny. So I guess the answer is it depends on the library. They all seem to have different policies. I was thinking about going back to school and getting a master's in library science and becoming a librarian.
Really?
Yeah, just quarter life crisis things.
Oh, Soupy.
Anyway. Perhaps he left it on purpose. It's lighter than you might think, but still a hindrance to a speedy escape.
Pity. It's locked, so we can't look inside.
Surely 5 seconds from now the situation will be quite different, though.
And sadly not. It has a 7-digit combination lock.
Not specifically my library science, but same. Yeah. That, like, the problem for me has always just been, like, the one like, real barrier to me has always just been, like, most library positions require a library science degree. And also, like, I would feasibly want one if I was going to do that, just because, like, I was trained in literature. I wasn't trained in library or data science. It seems like the sort of like public like school option would be like a 2-year master's program that would end up, I think, being like about $20,000, which is like pain.
You want to just fork that over?
I really don't.
Wow, it's just a measly little 20,000.
Like, my God.
And I'm not in a morose enough mood to work through all the combinations at present.
Oh, here he comes.
Hey,
You.
man.
You are still here. Just moved your LGBT organization library. It's only 3 bookcases across the street. Now you have to figure out how to organize it. Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's always, like, you know, I just worry about it because, like, it's like a pretty specific degree, and like, the positions are just inherently sort of limited.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Like the availability of work, like that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's just like, it's not like going to school to be a doctor where you're like kind of guaranteed a job
Right.
because like doctors are always in demand. It's like the demand flow of it is like pretty steady, pretty low.
Right.
Oh, Abel Seaman Stroganoff. Hello again.
I was beginning to think you'd never materialize.
You are waiting for me?
Of course. I was expecting you to burst in with a hearty Russian profanity far sooner.
I was in trouble with Captain because of trick you played before. Poor innocent chicken. It is all your fault. Ship is leaving port soon. Get off now!
Of course, we shall disembark presently, my dear fellow. But first, there's something that must be done.
What are you talking about?
Why, naturally. The debunking of your deceit and the bearing of the truth.
What?
I'm afraid I see through your lies. For one thing, Mr. Jigoku has not yet left this vessel at all. Oh? And for another, my dear Seaman Stroganoff, you know exactly where the man is even as we speak, don't you?
How can you? Good gracious, Sholmes. You mean you've worked it out? All of it?
It's really been too long, hasn't it, old friend? 10 years, no less. So, would you care to join me for a dance? Let's go!
Oh my god.
Of my inimitable logic and reasoning.
Nothing would please me more.
Oh, he's so happy!
What is this?
Let's
Oh!
go! Let's go! We have but minutes until the vessel puts to sea. No games now.
Oh, look at them!
Ah! Time is of the essence. Mr. Stroganoff, allow me to remind you of your earlier claim. You told us that Jigoku left the ship some 2 hours ago.
That is what I said.
Sadly, that was a rather clumsy lie. You see, there is something in this room that quite clearly contradicts it.
What? Oh, yes, of course.
I see you've noted it too, Mikotoba. Then please, do take the lead. What in this cabin shows the impossibility of Jigoku? What? Having disembarked 2 hours ago. Let's see what the last 3 years have done to your observational skills then, Mikotoba.
It's been 10 years since we last did this, Sholmes, not 3.
Why, of course it has! Quite!
Oh my god, how old are you, Mr. Sholmes?
Now, all the clues are here in this cabin for your eyes to see. But as I always say, you must not merely look, but observe. Observe and the answers become clear. So, impress me.
I think I can manage that. Oh. Cry!
Oh!
Oh! Oh! look at he's schmoovin'.
Oh my god!
Perhaps you should have cleared away that glass.
I wish Susato was here. How curious that the ice shouldn't have melted despite it being abandoned 2 hours ago.
Ugh.
It would appear that the man was here in this very cabin until moments before our arrival. With this well-chilled glass in hand.
See, this is how Sholmes got through every single case. Because you see what happens when you summon anybody to fucking fix it.
Exactly, yep.
Get your mind off the refreshment, Sholmes.
One might even conclude that somebody informed him of our boarding. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Stroganoff?
But why would Seishiro run from us?
Before we consider that question, allow me to confirm one small matter. Would I be correct in saying that these first-class cabins of the SS Grouse are the same ones in which you and Mr. Jigoku were accommodated on your voyage from Japan?
Oh, that's right, they are. I was in the cabin next door and Seishiro was, yes, 50 days in this very cabin during our voyage.
As I suspected. For you see, there are traces in this cabin of a dark secret that Mr. Jigoku had to hide.
What traces? I know nothing about this.
Oh, this is news to you, is it, Mr. Stroganoff?
Sholmes, what exactly are you getting at?
As I said, there are traces in this cabin of some nefarious activity. Something that appears out of place, which I'm quite sure won't have escaped your notice.
Something out of place in here. That's the key to this, Mikotoba. Oh wait, that's Sholmes.
That's the key to this, Mikotoba. The remnants of the dark deed that took place in here are being masked by something quite incongruous. I must say, I didn't foresee ever doing this dance of deduction with you again, Mikotoba.
No, quite. But life is full of unexpected twists and turns, as we well know. Now then, let's see if I can't uncover the truth here.
Yes, you have the floor, my dear fellow.
Oh,
Ding.
Oh no! What's awkwardly hiding the traces of the crime? I think maybe either the askew wall, the frame. Like he moved it from one place, from that one place of the wall to the other.
I think so. It was either one of those.
Yeah. Bing!
It's the rules of passage. Yep. It's the rules of passage in this frame here. They're obviously out of place. I missed the 50-50. The way they're hanging crooked on the wall, as if they were put there in a hurry.
Yes, as I'm sure you've already concluded. That frame was originally over here. The shape and size are a perfect match.
Duh, you were right. When did frame move?
Hardly the most observant of crewmen, are you, Mr. Stroganoff? I would think your captain is quite justified in having his reservations about your reliability. Oh my god. Go for the throat. Like,
Oh dear, that really seemed to touch a nerve.
Now, Mikotoba, why don't you lift that frame off the wall?
Oh!
Oh!
That looks like a bullet hole. What? Who has been shooting walls?
I see the projectile has been moved. Clearly, the careful occupant of this room has already disposed of it. Now then, Mr. Stroganoff.
Ah!
I have the distinct impression that you are attempting to shield said occupant.
I don't know what you're talking about. Why would I protect Eastern Stranger?
Ah, so we're talking about the same man, I see. Good.
Gah.
I'm sure we can get to the bottom of this in no time, aren't you? Because there's some very noteworthy evidence that explains the reason why you're lying for the man. Yes, you've been told to keep up this pretense as clearly shown by...
I really don't know how to approach this one, Sholmes.
Ah, my dear Mikotoba, simply keep first principles in mind. Study your subject from every angle. And I'm quite sure that you'll see it. In fact, I'd put a wager on it.
So I'm to glare at the fellow from all sides. Well, I can certainly do that. Chunky arms. Oh wow, look at this. Oh wow, oh boy, look at all that money.
Money.
God, look at him tap.
Money.
It's almost too obvious for words.
Quite. The universal language of the world. Money.
Ah! I'd wager that the Eastern fellow in question is Seishiro Jigoku. Yes? Gah! So I presume you realize what this means. There are clear signs that crime has been committed in this cabin. And the way you're going, sir, you'll find yourself accused of being an accomplice. But
I believe you know, Mr. Stroganoff. You know where Mr. Jigoku is hiding at this precise moment in time.
Well,
As
what is it?
always, Mikotoba, huh?
what is it with people and hiding in like combination locked like vessels?
It's the most, you know, who would ever suspect? As always, Mikotoba, in matters of deduction, the furtive glance is your unfaltering ally.
Yes, I think you're onto something there, Sholmes. You found the chink in this burly fellow's armor.
We need only follow the man's gaze to know where our friend is hiding. The slightest flicker of the pupils, a minutely delayed blink. Nothing escapes my attention, even that which is barely perceptible.
You could hardly call this barely perceptible, Sholmes. The man's turned his entire head. It's not exactly what you describe as a furtive glance, is it? It's almost too obvious.
He snapped his head around and zoomed straight in on the thing. We shall let your tapping toes decide, my dear fellow.
Oh no,
Look at
where
him, he's
could he
still
be looking? Oh, what a surprise.
Tippy tappy.
You turned immediately to look at this large trunk, didn't you? Ugh. The truth is, Seishiro Jigoku was unable to escape from the ship in time, and is at this very moment doing his best to stifle his breath inside this trunk.
Why doesn't he say anything? he should surely hear their voices. If he still has a breath to take, I fear he may be running dangerously low on air. What is happening? imagine he didn't count on us making a nuisance of ourselves for quite so long. Oh my god. I think it would be in everyone's best interests for us to open the trunk as quickly as possible.
But how can we? Are you forgetting about the combination lock? We don't know the 7-digit code. Oh, I know where it is.
The combination lock can't be opened from inside the trunk. Therefore, there must have been an arrangement for somebody to open it after our departure.
Of course.
In short, before Jigoku hid himself inside that trunk, he must have told somebody the 7-digit number for the lock. As I'm sure you can confirm, Mr. Stroganoff.
No, I know nothing about combination code.
Don't move a muscle, my good seaman.
Ah,
Now, Mikotoba, would you do the honors and open the trunk?
how on earth do you expect me?
It's a 7-digit number, remember? Quickly now, we have little time.
Wait, we have to review this scene. Let's see. 5. Is that a 2?
2, yeah.
3.
Jigoku really put his life in this guy's hands.
Let's see. 0. 4. 5. That did it. It's open.
Do he fit in there?
How did he fit
You had to meddle, didn't you?
Can you show us him? I want to see him in the. Oh, he's in the trunk.
How do you fit there?
Oh my
He's such
God,
a
how did
large
he
man.
get in
How
there?
you fit in there? I don't even believe this. I don't believe what I'm seeing. Well, Eugene, you found me now. I still feel like the trunk is too small. Like, it got sized downward.
I agree. This man's bones are broken. Seishiro.
How him legs do that?
How is he in there? I was really hoping beyond hope not to find you here, you know.
But you're not entirely unsurprised, I take it?
No, quite. I just wish it were some other way.
Well, are you ever going to introduce me? Ah, your reputation precedes you, Mr. Sholmes. I've read stories of many of your exploits. Half his body foot exactly. He's a large man.
Excuse my manners, Sholmes. This is Mr. Jigoku, my old friend and traveling companion. Half his body would fit. Yeah, there's no way for a person to, like, fit if only half their body fits in there, you know? It was quite something. I was like, where were the rest of his legs?
Exactly.
Maybe he used to be a magician's assistant. You know what? Maybe he did.
The devil is in the details, Mikotoba. I believe you meant to say your old friend and traveling companion, who made the cowardly decision to flee the country without a word to anyone when things turned sour. I see my reputation precedes me as well. What an honor.
Well, Seishiro, are you going to explain all this?
You know it all by now, I imagine. What you didn't know, of course, is that 3 days ago, on the night before our arrival in Britain, an attempt was made on my life here on this very ship.
By the Reaper of the Bailey. Yes, I've since heard. Because you were once prosecuted by the Reaper, weren't you? 10 years ago now, mind you.
And I had no idea at the time what a dangerous individual he was. Anyway, when we arrived in London to find the symposium was postponed until goodness knows when, it became all too apparent to me that I might very well be targeted again.
So you decided to flee the capital without saying a word to me about it.
I'm afraid so, yes. Of course, I realize now that I really ought to have confided in you.
I think this is
It-
Sean's.
It's somewhat surprising, I must say. What is? Well, first-class cabins aboard luxury steamships are in very short supply. It's more than a little hard to believe that this one just happened to be available. So says the protagonist of some colorful short stories. Well, I don't care for your opinion.
Damn, cold-blooded.
The cabin did just happen to be available, so I purchased a ticket, and here I am.
I've just seen for myself the obvious remnants of the incident in this cabin. So you'd already purchased your return ticket before we even docked in Dover, had you? To prevent anyone else taking this cabin and seeing the evidence, is that it?
Eugene, I have nothing to say to you.
Damn.
Well, in a mere 5 minutes, the ship will set off on its onward voyage and not make port again until Italy. I'm afraid we must insist that you disembark with us at once. You have no jurisdiction over my movements.
We have this, Seishiro. Take it.
What is it?
It's a subpoena from the Old Bailey. You're a man of the law. You know what the ramifications of ignoring a document like this from the British courts would be.
You came prepared then, Eugene.
Prepared to end your life! Bam!
Oh my god!
I won't hesitate, bitch. Come on, let's go.
One moment.
What is it, Shrooms?
Inside Mr. Jigoku's trunk, I found this rather fascinating trinket.
Oh, that's the watch.
Oh!
What is that? Seishiro.
I can't help you, I'm afraid. Some small component from something. But what? I have no idea.
By the look on his face, I think he genuinely doesn't know.
Well, let us pocket it as a small souvenir of our brief sojourn in France.
Well, young Naruto, I think we've done as much as we can, I'm afraid. The rest will be on the shoulders of you and your assistant. "3rd November, 12:10 p.m. The Old Bailey courtroom." Kazuma Asaki. I know you and I know you wouldn't lie, but still, there's no doubt that you're holding something back. You know more than you're saying. During the past 30 minutes while this court was adjourned, all possible efforts were expended. But sadly, Mr. Jigoku's whereabouts could not be ascertained.
We must accept the unfortunate conclusion that the Reaper has already done the deed. There's no sense in wasting any more of the court's time. The prosecution calls for an immediate verdict.
No, the trial cannot end now.
You're a Japanese man, Ryunosuke. You should know when to lay down your sword.
And you should know never to presume when the battle is won.
The court has already been presented with all of the evidence and heard all relevant testimony. And there can be only one conclusion, that the accused is guilty.
All relevant testimony? Far from it. There's still a crucial witness from whom the court is yet to hear a single word of testimony. In that case, call your witness to the stand at once, counsel. Yes, my lord. Tomorrow, if possible. Okay, let's see. See, normally, if you go one-on-one with another wrestler, you got a 50-50 chance of winning. But I'm a genetic freak, and I'm not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beating me. And then, you add Kurt Angle to the mix. Your chances of winning drastically go down. See, the three-way at sacrifice, you got a 33 1/3 chance of winning. But I got a 66 2/3 chance of winning. Because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me, and he's not even gonna try. There you go.
Wow.
How long we hype?
Oh, we hydrating. I don't even have any water.
Should fix that.
I'm gonna go get some water.
Hello?
Hello.
I'm ready.
Okay.
The witness is already on his way and scheduled to arrive tomorrow.
Who on earth is this crucial witness?
Seishiro Jigoku, the very man allegedly murdered by the Reaper.
Judge Jigoku, you found him! You would not believe where we found him.
You would not believe what we had to go through.
Yeah.
But the hold on one second.
Mhm.
Sorry, Philip was batting at the string lights in the closet. But the investigations of every policing resource in the capital suggest that Jigoku is already dead. How in the name of God did you find the man?
Ooh.
He was he was located in France during the recess, at the port of Dunkirk. Thanks to one of Mr. Herlock Sholmes' famous deductions. Herlock Sholmes!
Herlock Sholmes.
Inspector Gregson almost certainly met with Mr. Jigoku on the night of his death. Because along with Professor Asuki, Gregson was on a mission to assassinate the man. I gotta spritz him when he attacks the string lights.
What?
I'm afraid that he's gonna like break off some of the string lights and eat him.
Oh my god.
Which means that Seishiro Jigoku is the sole witness who can clarify exactly what happened aboard the SS Grouse on the 31st October.
Wow.
Well, it would appear that it's too soon to move to adjudication at this point.
The prosecution concurs. The court must hear Mr. Jigoku's testimony. Bro, he's gonna get got because of us. We pulled him out of the trunk. He was safe in there.
Philip, what are you doing?
Philip.
No judgment should be passed until all testimony has been considered. These cats, man.
Yep. In that case, I hereby call the end of today's proceedings. Court will reconvene the same hour tomorrow. No objections from either side? No, my lord.
No objections, my lord.
We live to fight another day. By the skin of our teeth. To be continued.
Ooh.
Ooh. Man, can you imagine if you were playing this game and it was you were playing them like when they released and you played the first game and you were like, that felt like a tutorial the whole game. And you have to wait like 2 years for this game to come out. So you have to
I'm
ask
glad that we can
why.
play them all now.
Why are we defending Van Zieks? Van Zieks has been accused of murdering Tobias Gregson.
We know he ain't do it, so we gotta defend him.
And at the same time, he's basically being like tried again for being the Reaper, which he is not. Theoretically, probably, most likely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's double jeopardy. Well, the thing is, it's not necessarily double jeopardy because they're trying him for a murder, right? So they couldn't try him for the same murder. It's not that they're trying to say like there's no legal precedent by which one is a Reaper, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you get exonerated for a crime and then you try him for a new murder, they're trying him for a new murder but implying old evidence. I'm not certain that is the case.
I don't think they're using old evidence
Because
against him.
They're not really talking about old evidence, because if they were talking about because if the Notebook was something that came up in the Reaper trial, I don't think people would be as surprised by it. And that's like really the only piece of evidence that has any sort of meaning transcending beyond the case. It's also like, did they try him as the Reaper or did they just investigate him? I think they seem to have mentioned that they did do some kind of trial. So it's likely that he went to court for one of the murders and they found that he was not, and they investigated him. Yeah. Like, it's obvious. Okay, so like obviously if you look at this from like a real law standpoint, then like none of the proceedings are like realistically ever valid, right? Because all of the parties have so many like conflicting interests that like the case would never get off the ground to begin with, right? You can't have a situation in which you're trying like you as a prosecutor are trying a defendant who is a prosecutor who handed down, advocated against your father, right? In court. Like, it just wouldn't fly if we're talking about like ethically from a reasonable, what we would consider the law today in the modern day standard, then like no. But also like, did double jeopardy, like when did we invent double jeopardy, right? Because like this is like we're in like 1910 and we don't have forensic evidence yet.
No, we don't have forensic evidence, but we do have a bunny ear cell phone.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know if it's even a British court of law thing, double jeopardy.
Apparently the doctrine of double jeopardy appears to have originated in ancient Roman law. In the broader principle non bis in idem.
Right. But is it in a British court of law?
Well, that's it. Oh, wow, this is pretty convenient actually. Let's see. Double jeopardy has been permitted in England and Wales in certain exceptional circumstances since the Criminal Justice Act of 2003. So the doctrines of autrefois acquit and autrefois convict persisted as the parts of the common law from the time of the Norman conquest of England.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it doesn't technically count as double jeopardy for Renzies because he's being tried for a different murder.
Yeah, he's being
just can't be
tried
tried
for a different crime. Like, I don't think it is improper to bring up the history of implications against England is so old they had to allow
Had to allow double jeopardy.
There's a 1964 case that disallows double jeopardy in UK law, but so it basically sounds like the answer is shrug emoji, yes and no. Yeah. Like if they were trying him for the same crime, then it would probably be a no-go, but like it's a different murder and he's been investigated for like a bunch of murders. Like I don't think you ever get to a point where you are allowed to not be investigated for new murders, right?
Yeah.
If you can prove that he did the other murder, it can be used as evidence for the case even if he won't be convicted of the previous case due to double jeopardy. Okay. That's interesting. I don't know anything about law, but that sounds, I guess, fair enough. Yeah, but also like you should never look at Ace Attorney and think too hard about the law procedures because they will not work.
Yeah. There's been many times that even we as laymen have like pointed at something and been like, I don't think that's legal.
That's definitely not how it works. Why are we only talking about evidence law in the last case of the last game of the trilogy? Even if you find new evidence, you can't try the person again. I'm fairly certain that is the case, unless apparently you are in the United Kingdom post 2003, in which case, for extreme circumstances, it appears that you can be tried for the same crime. And I mean, to be fair, like also to be fair, like there is kind of a sense of like, you know, if somebody is exonerated for a crime, there's a decent chance they'll probably just commit another crime. You know? I guess the idea is, you know, if they commit another crime, and we can catch them for that one. Different crimes. Yeah. That's actually a good point. So like if they find evidence of you committing a different crime during the same incident, they can try you for it. That makes sense, I think. Obviously, I don't know anything about the law. Can you call screaming? What is going on over there?
Playing a game of some sort.
I see. Okay, well, thanks for joining us. There is no tier list stream tomorrow because I have to. That's Renu's roommate. Um,
My roommate.
there's no stream tomorrow because I have to go eat lunch with my parents.
Ah.
I might get a haircut also, I think. But yeah, so we'll see you next week for
Yeah.
Ace of Attorney. Goodbye.
Bye bye. See you next time.